Washington has dismissed Russian President Vladimir Putin's proposal that Ukraine should be put under temporary UN control.
Israel launched its first attack on the Lebanese capital Beirut since the ceasefire ended fighting with Hezbollah in November.
Washington has dismissed Russian President Vladimir Putin's proposal that Ukraine should be put under temporary UN control. Earlier, the Russian leader suggested that new elections could be held under external governance. Putin has previously called Ukraine's current government an illegitimate regime and claimed that any peace agreements signed under this government could therefore be challenged by successors. It comes just hours after the conclusion of a summit hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron that considers plans to send troops to Ukraine in an effort to cement a peace deal. Several nations other than France and Britain expressed they wanted to be part of the force, Macron said. Russia warned it wouldn't accept troops from NATO members as part of a prospective peacekeeping force.
It's a much-awaited announcement that's been in the works for weeks now. French President Emmanuel Macron unveiled the outline for a reassurance force from several countries that would intervene in Ukraine in case of a peace treaty with Russia. But there's still quite a lot of uncertainty surrounding this announcement. First of all, we don't know which countries are willing to participate and how much they are willing to give. The French president did admit that the decision was not a unanimous one. We also don't know what sort of equipment will be used and exactly how many troops will be sent. And another important factor is that Macron insisted that these troops will not be there for peacekeeping purposes, but rather to provide the Ukrainian army with long-term support and reassurance. So in that case, what happens in case of a new Russian attack? One thing is clear is that the Kremlin has repeatedly said that any sort of intervention would lead to a direct conflict.
It seems that divisions remain among EU countries when it comes to sending troops to Ukraine. According to an official statement following the Paris summit, in support of Ukraine, the Italian government reaffirmed Rome's refusal to send troops to the country to defend any peace deals. As we know, the Italian government already said that Italy's only condition to deploy troops to Ukraine would be as part of a UN-led peace mission. The note also said that Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni emphasized the importance of continuing collaboration with the United States to end the conflict, expressing hope that the US would take part in the next European meeting on Ukraine. However, one of the main takeaways from the summit seen as a success for the Italian government was the reference to NATO's Article 5. According to the note, in discussions on security guarantees for Ukraine, Meloni reaffirmed that this could be linked to what is already provided by NATO's Article 5, a stance welcomed by French President Emmanuel Macron. As we know, the Italian Prime Minister had already suggested that NATO could extend Article 5 protections to Ukraine without granting Kiev membership in the alliance. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
U.S. official cars were seen departing Greenland's capital Nuuk on Thursday after U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha downscaled their planned visit. The couple were scheduled to tour the capital as well as visit the Pitifik space base in the northwest. But after a public outcry from Greenlandic and Danish lawmakers who slammed the trip as aggressive, the itinerary was reduced to just the base.
Det helt klart en deeskalering, altså fordi hvis man skal sige det sådan lidt hurtigt, ikke, så har amerikanerne vel haft en eller anden idé om de ikke lige kunne købe Grønland også, og det kunne de så ikke. Og så har der vel været en eller anden idé om, at så kan man så charme grønlænderne til selv og stille sig til rådighed for USA. Og det er vel sådan, man har skulle tænke det her besøg fra anden damen og nogle højt profilerede, højtstående amerikanske politikere til det grønlandske samfund. Og det er jo det besøg, der er aflyst.
US President Donald Trump has for some time routinely expressed his desire to control the self-governing region of Denmark. He has recently renewed his interest in doing so, adding that he will achieve his goal, quote, one way or the other. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not surprised with Trump's persistence. The Russian leader noted that Washington first set its eyes on the Arctic island in the 19th century, but added that the current administration has serious plans.
Во время Второй мировой войны США разместили в Гренландии военные базы для защиты от захвата ее нацистами. А после окончания войны Штаты предложили Дании выкупить эти острова. Совсем недавно, по меркам мировой истории. Словом, речь идет о серьезных планах с американской стороны в отношении Гренландии.
In a further show of defiance to U.S. threats, Greenland formed a new broad coalition government on the eve of the Vance's visit. The new unity government brings together 4 of the 5 elected parties in parliament and aims to send one strong message. Greenland is for its people.
Israel has launched its first attack on the Lebanese capital Beirut since the ceasefire ended fighting with Hezbollah in November. The IDF warned people to evacuate prior to the attack, vowing to retaliate for strikes they say were launched from Lebanon into Israel. Militant group Hezbollah denied firing these rockets and accused Israel of seeking a pretext to renew attacks. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the health ministry said a family of 6 and a Hamas spokesman were killed in separate Israeli strikes in the north of the Strip. More than 800 people have been killed by Israel since it broke its ceasefire with Hamas last week. Israel blamed the renewed hostilities on Hamas's refusal to release more hostages before negotiations on ending the war proceed. Hamas has said it will only release the remaining captives in exchange for Palestinian prisoners, a lasting ceasefire, and an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza.
Scenes of a bomb hitting Sana'a with smoke rising as residents stayed awake during Ramadan's final days. Suspected US airstrikes have hit multiple sites across Yemen controlled by Houthi rebels early on Friday. The intensity of the strikes appeared greater than in previous days in the campaign that began on March 15th. While the extent of damage and casualties remains unclear, initial Houthi reports claim at least 7 people were injured. Other targets included the Sana'a International Airport, which is used for both civilian and military purposes, the Red Sea port city of Hodeidah, and areas in Al-Jawaf, Amran, and Marib. The Houthis say the strikes have killed at least 57 people since the campaign began, following their threats to resume targeting ships linked to Israel over Gaza aid blockades. Earlier this year, they attacked over 100 merchant vessels, sinking 2, while also targeting US warships without success. The strikes come a few days after it was revealed a journalist was inadvertently added into a group chat among US national security officials as they coordinated plans to strike Houthi targets earlier this month.
At least 3 people have died and dozens remain missing in Thailand after a 7.7 magnitude earthquake caused a high-rise building in Bangkok to collapse. Bangkok City Hall declared the city a disaster area to facilitate the response. People all over the city evacuated buildings and were cautioned to stay outside in case of more aftershocks. The extent of death, injury, and destruction in Myanmar, where the earthquake had its epicenter, was not immediately clear. The country is embroiled in a civil war with information tightly controlled. Myanmar's government said blood was in high demand in the hardest-hit areas. The earthquake reportedly brought down multiple buildings, including Mandalay's largest monastery, and burst a dam in the city. It was also felt in China, causing damage to houses and injuries in the city of Raili near the border with Myanmar.
More than 2,000 cattle are to be slaughtered at a farm in Hungary, where several animals have been infected with foot and mouth disease. Due to the outbreak, authorities have established a 2-tier security zone around the farm in Leville, where strict restrictions are in place and the slaughter of backyard livestock is recommended.
Állattartókat arra ösztönözzük, hogy háztáji állatállományaikat lehetőleg házi vágással vágják le. Ezt úgy tudják megtenni, hogy a hatóság felé ezt előzetesen bejelentik, és egy vérvétel is fog történni az állatokból, és ha ez igazolja a vírusnak a hiányát, tehát kizárja a vírus jelenlétét, akkor az állatok húsa az felhasználható és fogyasztható.
In neighbouring Slovakia, an official cull of susceptible animals has been ordered in a 3-kilometre protection zone in the Ziget-Kuz region. Some locals in Lux took to the streets to protest against the measures. This man describes his daughter's experience.
Volt neki egy a tehény, a borjávú, törpemalac, azt ott háromszor lőtték meg. Háromszor lőttük, mire, de még akkor itt, mikor betettük autóba.
These farmers don't want to see their livestock slaughtered unnecessarily.
Próbálkozunk mindent megtenni azért, hogy mindenféle tesztelések meg karantén nélkül egészséges állatokat csak azért, mert egymástól 3 kilométeren belül vagyunk, minden szó nélkül levágjanak.
In Level, the eradication of the infected herd will begin this weekend. While in Lux, the slaughter of susceptible animals will continue in the coming days.